Hi, I'm Brendan Lowe with the Camden City School District, and welcome to a special conversation with Deputy Superintendent Katrina McCombs, where we'll put the spotlight on 2015 PARCC results. New Jersey has a new state test, and the results are now out, so we want to explore questions like, what is this new test? How did we do on it, and where do we go from here? Joining me today is Deputy Superintendent McCombs. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it. And why don't we start with the basics? PARCC stands for the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. It's a mouthful. Can you tell us what is PARCC and where did it come from?
Absolutely. It is a mouthful, and I think that's very purposeful. As the name indicates, the focus for PARCC is on really assessing whether or not our students are leaving high school, college, and career ready. And based on studies, based on looking at student outcome performance, not only in New Jersey but across the nation, the trend was that our students were not leaving high school feeling that they were ready for college or equipped for making the best career choices for themselves. So PARCC is designed to really take a closer look at whether or not students are leaving college and career ready, which is a shift from the previous test that we took in New Jersey, which was New Jersey Ask. So our state decided to join the rest of the states in the nation to adopt the PARCC assessment in the hopes that overall we would make sure that all of our students in the nation are really equipped and ready for college.
Yeah. So PARCC comes in, NJ Ask, as you mentioned, goes out, HESPA, the high school exam, goes out.
Yes, that's
And so
correct.
what does this mean for students, Camden students, who took these tests back in the spring of 2015?
So really what it means for our students is that the test changed.
Okay.
So the type of assessment that they were given back in the spring was more challenging, it was more rigorous. The focus was more on complex problems, on longer multi-step word problems in math, on those higher order thinking skills that are most critical. But New Jersey Ask had some emphasis there. PARCC really highlighted and really went deeper with regard to what the expectations were for students as they were taking these kinds of exams. So students faced a much more challenging and much more rigorous assessment.
And as a result, the scores look different. The scores across the state in New Jersey and across other states, they look different. In New Jersey, performance levels, proficiency, as we say, students who passed the test, those percentages had been in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s across the state. And now the state, which released their scores in late October, they're seeing performance levels in the 30%, the 40%, the 50%. So different performance. You mentioned that the test is more rigorous, some more complex questions. What does that mean locally? At a high level, what do the results look like for Camden, for our district and our students in schools?
Absolutely. As we examine the PARCC scores overall, we find that there are some bright spots, but we also find that there are a lot of areas where we have a lot of work ahead of us. We have a lot more work to do in making sure that our students are ready and are equipped to face the demands and challenges of the PARCC assessment. So we are really looking forward to implementing and continuing to implement and expand the implementation of many of the elements of the Camden commitment that were addressed earlier this year.
Sure. So let's drill down a little bit. And can you take us through what the district results and what the school-by-school results looked like in this first administration of the PARCC test?
Absolutely. As you will see on the screen, before even we talk about the results, I want to make sure that everyone is just on the same page with the changes in looking at the different levels that are required. So the levels range from 1 to 5. Level 1 means that student in that area did not meet expectations. Level 2 means the student partially met expectations. Level 3 means the student approached expectations. Level 4 means the student met expectations, and then level 5 means that the student exceeded expectations. And so what that means is the goal is for students to fall into level 4 or level 5, and that is synonymous with being college and career ready. So that proficiency is where we are aiming to go. And when we look at our assessment outcomes on the PARCC as a district, when we focus in on grades 3 through 8 in English language arts, we find that the state average was 50%. So 50% of students across the state were proficient, meaning that they scored in the level 4 or 5 range. When you look at our district average, 6% of our students were proficient, meaning that they scored level 4 or 5. As mentioned earlier, there are some bright spots. We have some of the highest performers, which are Creative Arts, Morgan Village Academy, Mastery North Camden, Kramer, Davis, and Sharp scored highest among our district schools, ranging from 18% down to 12% in ELA. When we look at our math outcomes, statewide, the average was 39% of students in the state reached a level 4 or 5. Our district average in math was 4%. The highest performers in the district, Kramer, Sharp, Caddo, and Creative Arts Morgan Village Academy, ranging in scores or percents from 9% to 6%. And then finally, just to share news on the high school front, when we look at our English language arts assessments, our state average is 39%. The district average is 7%. Brim and Creative Arts Morgan Village are the highest two performers with 33% and 30% respectively. When we look at our outcomes in Algebra 1, the state average, 36% of students were proficient. Our district average in Algebra 1 was that only 3% of our students were proficient overall. The bright spots, Creative Arts Morgan Village Academy with 21% proficiency and Brim Medical Arts with 12% proficiency. In the area of geometry, the state average is 23%. Our district average is only 1%. Creative Arts Morgan Village Academy was our bright spot at 3%. And finally, Algebra 2, the only area or bright spot was Woodrow Wilson with 2% in the area of math. And I wanted to take that time to go through each area to make sure that we're being very transparent with the data.
Thank you very much for talking us through those results on a school-by-school basis. Parents, we should mention, are getting an individual score report. So if you're at home and you're wondering, how did your student do, you should have received an individual score report by now. If not, you should contact your school. So in terms of, we know what the results are now, in terms of what it feels like, can you give us a reaction first, just as Deputy Superintendent?
Absolutely.
We have these results. What's your take on them?
The results, there's no way to sugarcoat it. I don't think it would do our students any justice to do that. I think as an educational community, we have to really look at the hard truth of what we're facing. And it's not a new story. We know, even from the New Jersey PARCC results, when that test was being given, that when you compared our scores to the rest of the state, we were lagging. PARCC just seems to further emphasize the gap that exists when you look at our achievement when compared to the rest of the state. So we have work to do. We have a lot of disciplined work to do. But the good news, or the bright spot, is, without painting a rosy picture, is that we have already started to do some of this work.
Absolutely.
So the PARCC was administered in the spring, and since then we've been able to implement a new curriculum in reading and math, and we hope to see changes with regard to our student outcomes by having an aligned curriculum that is actually aligned to the PARCC. Our previous curriculum was not aligned to those same standards. We're also looking at digging deeper into coaching, where teachers are being given more coaching, but focused coaching.
Okay.
And as school leaders are coaching, they are also being coached by their school performance officers, chief school performance officers, who are really holding their feet to the fire, along with our chief academic officer and myself, to really make sure that the integrity of the evaluation scores is helping us to really see where our teacher gaps are in instruction, so that we can work on those as well. So to answer your question, we have a lot of work to do, and we are up for the challenge. We just need to make sure that we stay the course. The PARCC results, when you look at them in their single-digit outcomes, it doesn't feel good, but it should motivate us to continue to dig deeper and make sure that we remain focused on what's best and what's most important, which is our student outcomes.
Sure. And so if you take your Deputy Superintendent hat off for a second, you put your parent hat on.
Yes.
Can you give us your take as parents receive these results, what they should be thinking of, the kinds of questions they should be asking, and the kind of steps that they should be taking?
Absolutely. And I would just keep it as simple as possible. Anything that just doesn't make sense, when parents receive their children's individual score reports and they take a look at it, if it's not clear, even though the state did a good job of trying to make sure that everything was very parent friendly, it may not be, and parents should not feel hesitant or shy about asking their school leaders questions, asking their teachers questions about the PARCC results. All of our school leaders will be equipped and ready to share information with their teachers, and hopefully that information will get to parents as well. So the idea here is for schools to be the front lines for being able to help parents to understand the results. There are also many different websites that are available. There are a couple of websites that I will quote for you that are available if parents would like to go to these websites to be able to just get some more information. One of those websites is understandthescore.org, and another is bealearninghero.org, and these can help parents to, just give more guidance also, because as parents we want what's best for our children, and sometimes we may not understand some of the results that are shared with us and what that really means for your child moving forward. And I think that's a good conversation the parent should have with the school leader and or the teacher.
Sure. One of the questions that parents might have is about the impact that these scores will have on their student or not. Whether that means whether the student will graduate from high school, if it's a high school student, whether the student will be promoted to the next grade, if it's a younger student. Teachers might have the same questions. School leaders might have the same questions about, is my school going to be impacted? Is my teacher performance going to be impacted because of these results? Can you respond to that about what these scores mean, what they don't mean? Because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, a lot of rumors. There's been a lot of concern about this day coming when the results will be available.
Absolutely. So you raise a huge question, and overall, the answer is no. For the short answer is no. The less complicated answer is no. Because we know the student promotion is based on many different factors, and the PARCC assessment is just one of those factors. We know students are given homework assignments, quiz assignments, interim assessments, map assessments, teacher-created assessments. So that is the PARCC assessment is one slice when you look at student outcomes. So student promotion is not going to be based on just a student's PARCC assessment scores. Teacher evaluation is also based on multiple factors, and it will not, our Danielson evaluation model and rubric calls for teachers to be able to demonstrate their own proficiency in teaching in many different areas that are tied to better student outcomes. So teacher evaluation is just, the PARCC assessment is just one component of the teacher evaluation criteria. And then decisions about schools, that may come up as well, because schools, the performance of our students, the question might be, well, does that mean that our schools are going to close? Outcomes, student achievement outcomes, are just one factor also when decisions are being made in a very collaborative and collective way about school closures or school actions. So again, to underscore, no, there are so many different factors. We can't diminish the importance of the PARCC results and what that tells us. So I'm not trying to do that either, but we have to have a lens that is not narrow in focus, but very comprehensive, because so many multiple factors may influence teacher evaluation practice, student outcome, achievement outcomes, and decisions about school closures.
Sure. So in terms of where we go from here, the folks who administer PARCC have said the results will come back earlier in future administrations so that they can be more useful, more timely for educators. So there's the expectation that we'll get the results in the summer next year after students take the tests in the spring. Looking forward, where do we go from here? What's your focus? What's the conversation you're having with your team and with school leaders about where we go from here?
Absolutely. So I think I alluded to it earlier, but we have to stay focused to the Camden commitment and to our latest pieces that we shared in phase 2 of the Camden commitment, which have to do with, number one, making sure that there is active coaching that is occurring, not just with teachers, but also school leaders, being able to receive coaching that is based on real-time data, that's not just based on all of the elements that should make up a good school leader, but really trying to look at what are those critical areas that each school leader, if they were able to move, would have the most impact on student achievement. So trying to be very intentional also and deliberate with our coaching, and having expectations that are across the board for our school leaders. The other area that we are going to continue to focus on is to making sure that our curriculum that was recently rolled out in September, that we're still continuing to make sure that teachers feel equipped and that they feel competent and confident when it comes to the implementation of that curriculum. So that's definitely another piece. We're going to continue with a double down across our 9th and 10th grades at the comprehensive high schools and all of our high schools to make sure that students are getting that additional time. So that increased intervention is very critical. And just across the board, I can't underscore enough differentiated instruction. So regardless of where students are academically in their classrooms, how far they are from mastering grade level skills, we need to make sure that our teachers are, and we are making sure that we're checking that our teachers are really using different strategies to make sure they're meeting the multiple needs of the students in their classrooms. Because the gaps are so wide within each classroom, they need that extra support to be able to do that. So that intensive intervention, that intensive support, intensive coaching, those are the areas of the Camden commitment, making sure the curriculum is being implemented with fidelity, are areas that we're focusing on. And I say them, I read them, I list them, but it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of collaboration, it takes a lot of difficult conversations to really make sure that what is expected is actually what's happening in our classrooms and our buildings.
Absolutely, absolutely. As we begin to wrap up here, any last words about what the future looks like? You're a very, very positive person. These results can be a little bit demoralizing when they first hit you and as you begin to process them. But how are you feeling about what things look like in our schools moving forward here?
So Brendan, you're a writer, you're a communications person, so you really do, I'm sure, appreciate great writers. So one of my favorite poets is Langston Hughes from the Harlem Renaissance period, and I learned about him when I was in Miss Campbell's English class at Camden High many, many years ago. But one of the things that stuck out to me in his poem, a line of it from A Dream Deferred is, you know, hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. So the dream that we have is that our students will really, really be working on grade level at a maximum, but also that our students will be able to compete and be on par with their colleagues across the state, or if not, even exceed their colleagues across the state. So that's the dream, and that's something that we have to not just have as a dream. Also, the superintendent is very clear about the 5-year targets, making sure that by the end of 5 years that at least 85% at a minimum of our students are in schools that are rated as in the top 2 tiers with regard to the school information card ratings. So just wanting to make sure that Camden's children, regardless of what school type they find themselves in, are in schools that are really going to nurture their academic excellence. And in order to do that, we just have to make sure that we do the work, because a dream without action, it means absolutely nothing. It's not going to get us to where we need to be. It's not going to get our students to the place so that their dreams can be actualized. So that's one thing that really sticks out to me, underscoring again the 5-year targets. And at the end of the day, just wanting to make sure that, just like the PARCC assessment, it's supposed to help us to really focus in on whether or not our students have been equipped for college and career readiness by the time they leave high school. That's our goal. That's our, and to what end we want to make sure that our students are able to really really make choices for themselves that are going to help them as they are participants in our global society. So it's going to take discipline, it's going to take hard work, but the best part is that we've begun the work.
Yeah.
The results came out now. The test was taken in the spring. We've started new work. We just have to stay focused and continue to go deeper so that work, we're able to see the results and the fruits of that work.
Yeah. Yeah. We should
So-
also point out that between the taking of the test and the results, you were also appointed as deputy superintendent. So
I
many
was.
changes, many improvements have been
was
made
here.
and are being made, certainly under your leadership.
Thank you.
So thanks very much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you for your time and your explanations and your confidence in the path forward. And thank you very much for watching this episode of Spotlight On, where we took a look at our 2015 PARCC results. We'll put the websites up again if you want to learn more at understandthescore.org or bealearninghero.org. You can also go to our website, camden.k12.nj.us. Click on the box that says PARCC Resources, and you can watch some videos, you can look at an FAQ. There's so much more to explore there. Thanks again for your time watching this episode, and have a nice day.